Welcome to Throwback Thursday, a trip down memory lane showcasing the golden era of RC cars.
The Tamiya Frog. No guts, no glory. Welcome back to another episode of Throwback Thursday. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to join me and talk about some vintage Tamiya kits. Today, not just Tamiya kits, but vintage RC kits. Today, we're going to talk about the Tamiya Frog. And another disclaimer for all you purists out there, I will say this is the re-released Frog. This is not an original unit. Unfortunately, I just don't have the means to get my hands on one anymore. Pretty hard things to come by. But this is the re-released Frog, which is a lot like the original Frog. In fact, at a glance, it looks almost identical. There are some minor changes they made over the model years. Let's talk about what makes the Frog the Frog. And I want to start off right away by talking about the chassis that it's on. The Tamiya Frog was originally released in December, I think it was December 16th, 1983. And it was the second vehicle in Tamiya's lineup to use the ORV chassis. Now this is according to TamiyaClub.com, which I consider a pretty reputable site. But the first vehicle that they came out with that used this chassis was the Lancia Delta Integral, Frog being the second to use this chassis, and many more have used this chassis, including the Subaru Brat, the Blackfoot, and the Mud Blaster. What the heck is an ORV chassis? ORV, off-road vehicle. So this chassis is used in many off-road vehicle applications. It's a two-wheel drive chassis, rear-wheel drive only. We've got four-wheel independent suspension on this chassis, lay-down rear suspension, which is super, super cool. The front suspension, though, is a totally unique beast. So let's talk about that front suspension for a second, because at a glance, I mean, you don't see any suspension really. So what is it that provides this kit dampening? The Tamiya Subaru Brat actually has the exact same front suspension setup as the Frog. So if you're looking at a Brat, you're going to see the same kind of setup. But as I was saying, at a glance, you don't see any shocks here. So what is it that's providing the dampening in the front end here? The dampening is provided in two different ways. The first method is by this metal arm here, which they're calling, I believe they call this a radius arm. And as you can see here, it bolts to the front bumper, and it also goes right through this lower control arm area. And that provides some rigidity and some dampening. The second method of dampening, as you take a look at this chassis, you don't see anything else. What else is there that could be providing dampening in here? There is a small spring inside of the chassis, and check out this diagram here right from the build manual. That kind of shows you how this is working. Now what's happening here, guys, is on this lower control arm here, there is a small piece of plastic that comes up. And on the other side of this plastic, there's another plastic plunger. So as your suspension compresses, it moves the second little plastic plunger, which then is attached to the shock. And the shock, again, is affixed in the center of the chassis, and it pushes off the plunger on the other side. And that's what kind of gives you your dampening on the front end of the Frog. Very cool design. I love that front suspension design. I mean, it's so cool. It's so stealth. You don't see any suspension. And while there aren't oil-filled dampers and it doesn't have a ton of travel, those are some of the sacrifices you have to make for having a cool car. So let's talk about the Frog's underbelly. What's going on down here? We've got this, first of all, let's talk about the front. We'll work our way back. We've got this nice big beefy bumper that's going to keep us out of trouble. It's wide enough to help protect us, help protect the front tires. Beefy upper and lower control arms with a lot of metal integrated here. Very kind of vintage looking pot metal uprights. A nice skid plate here that's protecting the steering servo and my electronic speed controller, which, by the way, this kit does come with an electronic speed controller, the Tamiya TBLE02S. And then here we have a chassis brace, and then we've got this small plastic clip that moves out of the way, like so. Open that up. And this battery compartment is unique in the sense that you can fit a modern day 2S LiPo pack in here. As mine doesn't fit, you can loosen up those screws just a wee bit, but you can fit a 2S LiPo hard case in there and that's a 5,000 milliamp pack. So you can get really nice long run times and have lipo power if that's what you decide to do. Moving to the back of the vehicle, we've got a rear trailing arm, independent trailing arm axles here with the ORV gearbox, which is prone to having some issues, although the dog bones on the Frog should solve most of those issues. The re-released Monster Beetle and Blackfoot are really quite notorious for having the right side dog bone pop out. And one of the common modifications that people do, including myself, is we buy the drive cups and the dog bones from the Frog. They're just a little bit longer, and they're going to help with holding the dog bone where it's supposed to be. So all you guys struggling out there in the Monster Beetle and Blackfoot world, that's a nice little hop up you can buy that's going to help you out and keep your dog bones where they're supposed to stay. Let's talk about wheels and tires, guys. Nice little, well, actually, first of all, I'll mention the fact that this kit does come with bushings inside. No ball bearings are in this kit. Kind of more of a budget kit, budget friendly, so not the best spinning wheels out there. But we've got nice tires here with nice ribs on the front and super duper spiky tires in the back. Very Hornet-esque. I believe they're probably the same tires from the Hornet, and even the same wheels from the Hornet with a 3-piece beadlock, both front and rear. Now the body, I believe, is the identical body to the 1983 release, so I don't think much has changed here. And see what that reveals inside. So again, gang, this is the ORV chassis, or the off-road vehicle. And so yeah, a couple things you didn't see that we have in the kit with the body. Now the body's off. The kit does come with the very much standard Tamiya servo saver, which works pretty good. So I'm happy with that. I threw that guy back in there. What else can I say? We've got some nice beefy metal support beams here, cross braces for the chassis. Scale driver figure, which is super rad. And in this case, I installed the Tamiya GT tuned motor. The kit does not come with this motor, just comes with your standard Mabuchi 540. I decided I just wanted to go with something that has a little more juice. And I haven't run this motor yet. I've got the special GT tune that's in the Bigwig, which I believe is the same motor. But I just wanted a little more juice out of this guy because I just felt like it was going to be a fun kit to get out there and rip around with. So a little more power on this guy. And speaking of speed and producing power, one really interesting fact about the transmission on this kit is that it comes with 3 separate gearing options. You have a low, medium, and high, and you can adjust to have the lower gear ratio for more torque, mid gear ratio, or the high gear ratio for more speed. So I went with the lower gear ratio. I'm a big fan of sort of gearing down and motoring up to keep temps down and keep strain down on parts. So that's what I've gone ahead and done. And I think that GT tune motor is really going to bring this thing to life. And of course, stick around because there will be a running video coming up sometime very soon. The weather is finally turned around. So everybody, that's it for today's episode of Throwback Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in. It would mean the world to me, guys, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute and just hitting that like button and subscribing. It means a lot in this crazy world of YouTube today. Those likes and those subscriptions mean a lot. And if you would even go a step further and hit the notification bell, that would be amazing. I really would appreciate that, guys. Thanks so much for all the love and support, everybody. As always, be excellent to each other.